welcome to Hooper's Radar. In today's video, guys, we'll be discussing how good NBA teams are going to be going into next season, assuming that the offseason ends tomorrow, or so far in the offseason, how good these teams will be next season. So, before I get into the video, I just want to thank you guys for so much support on my first video, the Rudy Gobert trade. It's been doing pretty good view-wise, and thank you guys for the support on that video. Starting off in this video, I just want to classify my tier list real quick. I have Still Not There, which are teams that are most likely going to still be in the lottery or tanking, or maybe might surprise in the play-in, but just still not there. Teams that are just happy being in the play-in or making the playoffs. The second round exit teams, the teams that just can't seem to get to the conference finals or over. The contenders, the teams that are possible contenders to win a title but aren't the biggest favorites to win it. And then chip bound teams that proven to win it, have been there, the biggest favorites. So I'm going to begin with the Still Not There tier. And to begin with my first team, I have the Houston Rockets. Also, I'm not going to be ranking these within the tier. That's too complicated. I'm just going to rank them based on their tier. So I'm going to start with the Houston Rockets. They're still not there yet because although they have a nice young core, Jalen Green, Tari Eason, Josh Christopher, I feel like they still are going to try their best to maybe end up in the lottery, get more talent, but they still aren't good enough as a core yet to compete with the other teams that are out there in the West, and let alone make the playoffs. Maybe they surprise and make the play-in, but the Rockets have a nice young core ahead of them, but they're still in that tanking rebuilding phase. The next team I have is the Indiana Pacers. Although they also have a nice young squad in they have now Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton. What do they have? Buddy Hield. They still even have Miles Turner. They have a nice young players. Oh, they also have the shooter they drafted last year. They have a nice young core as well, but compared to the other teams in the East, I still don't think they're ready with this young core to be a playoff team. Like I said, maybe they surprise and make the play-in, but there's just other teams that are right there, like the Wizards, that. So I think they're still not there yet. My next team is the Sacramento Kings. Oh my God, this team has been in this tier for God knows how long. The Sacramento Kings have been trying to be in the playoffs for a while now. They also have a nice young core, but every time you think they have a nice young core and they're going to make some noise, they don't really end up doing it. They have De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, Davion Mitchell. They now have Keegan Murray, who's a nice piece to add to that. They also, in a Lakers trade, they signed Malik Monk, reuniting that De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk, Kentucky backcourt. So they have a nice squad ahead of them, but they never seem to do much. So hopefully maybe they can make some noise, but I still don't believe they're there yet compared to the other teams. They're going to have to compete to make that play-in spot. So the Kings end up here. Then I have the Oklahoma City Thunder, the franchise, the king of draft picks. Where are they? Oklahoma City Thunder. They got Chet Holmgren, they got Josh Giddey, they got Trey Mann, they have they have SGA, got Shea. They have a lot of good players. They have Lou Dort, who they re-signed as well. They have a lot of great players. They have a nice young core, but I still don't believe they're done yet. With all those draft picks, the Jalen Williams, they just have so many players, and I don't think they're ready yet to make that push yet, but they're soon there. They have so much young talent, such a nice young core. I think they'll be competing soon, but I think this season they tank it once more. The Magic are next. They've also have a nice young core. I can't say this about every team here has a nice young core. They're not ready to go. I don't believe they're ready to go, and their franchises probably still want to tank and get a couple more picks and talent. But the Magic have Paolo now, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, RJ Hampton, Franz Wagner. They have a good amount of young players, just like all these other teams in this tier. But I believe they're going to take another tanking year and then maybe make a push once they feel confident in their full core. The next are the Detroit Pistons, a team that got Jaden Ivey this year and have a nice young core as well as the other teams here ahead of them. If I can find the Pistons. Yeah, the Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, future star, Jaden Ivey, they got Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bey. What can I say more? They got Jalen Duren. They have a nice young squad as well. I don't believe they're ready to compete quite so yet. They're probably going to maybe tank another year, try to get some more talent, and then have their confidence in their squad as well. But they just don't, as much as all these teams have nice young squads, they just don't compare to the other competition in their respective conference. And then the last team on this tier list I have is the Spurs. In my opinion, Spurs are probably the worst team out of this whole group just because they're a little bit lackluster on star power, as all these other teams have players like Jalen Green, Tyrese Halliburton, Shea, De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, Cade Cunningham. And the Spurs, their best player right now is pretty much Keldon Johnson. They have some nice young players like Joshua Primo. They also drafted the defensive player Jeremy Sohan. But they're probably the weakest squad out of these, still not there. And honestly, out of all these teams, they're probably going to tank for the most years after. So going into my next tier, the just happy tier. These are teams that are just happy to be in the play-in or be in the playoffs for at least the first round. And my first team is the Hornets. This team has so much talent. I hope Miles Bridges gets out. That's a very important piece in them. And they still got to resign him. They have LaMelo Ball, PJ Washington, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, Miles Bridges, a bunch of killers, Kai Jones. They have so many killers on this team. You know, they're such a nice young squad, but it's been proven that even when they make the play-in, they always end up choking that play-in game and don't get too much far. Hopefully things change, but for now, the Hornets, I think they're just a team that's just happy and won't really make it too far in the playoffs if they even get there, because they've still been stuck in the play-in for these last 2 years. Next team is the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers are amazing. Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, even though he was injured. You know, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Lauri Markkanen, and Kevin Love. They have a nice young squad with veterans and young players, and they showed that they were almost ready to be in the playoffs but got stopped by the Nets. I still don't think that compared to the other teams, his team is going to make it into the playoffs quite yet. They could, but not there yet. I think they're still a playing team at most. Next I have the Knicks. Yeah, they got Jalen Brunson. That's a great signing. But, you know, they did have to overpay him a little bit, even though he was a great player in the playoffs. They still have Julius Randle, who hopefully will have a comeback season. That will have to do with if the Knicks just stay as a team that will just be happy in the play-in or first-round playoff team, or if they can actually be something more than that. They still have R.J. Barrett, and they have other good players. They got Derrick Rose off the bench. So, you know, Jalen Brunson will be mad important to how good this team is next season, but I still just don't see them as too much of anything else besides a play-in or first-round playoff team. Next, I have the Washington Wizards. Washington Wizards, they took a W with re-signing Bradley Beal, but aside from Beal, they don't really have much. They have Porzingis, who hasn't been the same since those early, you know, New York Knicks years and a couple of Maverick years with Luka. But aside from that, you know, Bradley Beal, Porzingis, I don't even know who else is on that team that's too relevant besides Kyle Kuzma. They just don't have the strongest squad, and that's why I just have them as practically just a play-in team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they'll be in the play-in. Then I have my last team on this tier list is the Jazz. The Jazz, as of right now, don't have Rudy Gobert anymore. It's practically just Donovan Mitchell, Bogdanovich, and Mike Conley. Mike Conley has seriously regressed. Bogdanovich is still a good player. I forgot they still also have Jordan Clarkson. But, you know, without Rudy, this team will not be that great of a defensive team, even though they got Patrick Beverley, Walker Kessler, and I believe it was Jared Vanderbilt in that trade. They'll still be a good wing defensive team, but rim protection is going to be a big issue for them. And they don't have that Gobert rebounding anymore either. I don't even think they have much of a center right now at the moment. And they really only have Donovan Mitchell as their star player, so I think this team will be a play-in team. First round type of playoff maybe. But yeah, moving on to the second round exit team. These are teams that will make the playoffs, but will end up not getting too much farther than the second round. Won't be eliminated in the second round. Starting off with the Bulls. We saw it this year, man. But the Bulls are great, and although they were injured in the playoffs, they did lose to 5 to the Bucks. And yeah, it's the Bucks, but it was the Bucks without Chris Middleton. And DeMar had one great performance, but he still kind of choked that playoff series. And although he's gotten way better with that mid-range game and everything, I don't see the Bulls getting too far. It's really gonna take DeMar DeRozan being a more consistent playoff performer and Zach LaVine stepping up as that number 2. Vucevic. It's going to take a lot of development and them being healthy as well, because Lonzo and Caruso are a nice backcourt to have as well. Ayo Dosunmu. They just have good pieces all around, but maybe they could break the second round, but I still have them as a second round exit. The T-Wolves are my next team. Although they got Rudy Gobert now, should make them better. They don't really have a bench anymore, don't have much depth. It's practically just Cat, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, and D'Lo. And yeah, like this team, They got eliminated in the first round, obviously, and they're better now defensively, but they really don't have depth, and they just don't compare to the other teams that are in the tier list above. Next, I have the Hawks. Yeah, the Hawks did acquire DeJounte Murray, and they were in the Eastern Conference Finals at one point. But this fit, I'm going to have to see it before I really agree that this fit is going to be amazing, because DeJounte Murray is a player who, when he reached his best, potential as an all-star, he had the ball in his hand a lot, was averaging 9 assists, ran a lot of pick and rolls, and that's something that also Trae Young does. So this will depend on if they can play off the ball with each other. And the Hawks were very disappointing this year in the playoffs. Yeah, they have DeJounte Murray now, but even Trae himself wasn't the same as usual, so hopefully Trae will bounce back. But, just compared to the other teams, I still don't see this team making it more in the second round. Next team, I have the Pelicans. They showed a very bright future ahead of them this playoffs with just Brandon Ingram showing out completely in the playoffs, playing amazing, getting CJ. They didn't even have Zion. Zion's a beast. We know that. They showed a lot of potential as a team that they could be very good, and I think in a couple years they could be contenders. But right now, I still don't think they're ready yet. But they're definitely in the playoff spot. They're definitely gonna be a playoff spot. Next, I have the Mavericks. This might be a little controversial because they did make the Western Conference Finals this year. But let's be honest, the Suns are still a better squad on paper, more talented, better bench and everything than the Mavericks. Luka just showed out completely. Luka honestly carried this squad, and now they got Christian Wood. But at the same time of getting Christian Wood and that being a good thing, they also lost Jalen Brunson. And Jalen Brunson was basically kind of like a Walmart Luka. That when Luka was injured, he kind of played the Luka role in playmaking and scoring and running pick and rolls. And they don't have another playmaking shot creator like Luka now. It's basically just Luka. Hopefully, Jaden Harden can be somewhat of that because he was a great steal for them. But they did lose Jalen Brunson, and although they gained Christian Wood, that is kind of a loss for them. So I still have them as a second round exit. The next team is the Trailblazers. I might get flamed for this one, but hear me out. The Trailblazers went out and got Jeremy Grant. Yes, they did lose CJ and Norman Powell, and that is an L for them. But they have Jeremy Grant now. That will make the defense better. They also have Gary Payton II now, which will also make the defense better. As a guard coming off the bench, great defensive trendsetter. Jeremy Grant, great power forward who can average 20 a game. They signed Nurkic back, a pretty good center. Honestly, an underrated center who can give you like 13 and 10 and some good passes, some good playmaking. They're gonna get Dame back. Dame's gonna have a great season coming back from that injury. They have Anthony Simons, who's a great scoring guard and will now be playing the 2. I think they honestly have a young, underrated squad. They have Shaedon Sharpe, Jabari Walker, good rookies that I think will make an impact. And I just think they have an underrated squad, and I think they'll do pretty well this season, but they're still a second round exit. My last team for this tier list is the Raptors. I love the Raptors. I love what they have going on there. Nick Nurse has done a great job over there. Obviously, Scotty Barnes, Rookie of the Year, Fred VanVleet, All-Star, Pascal Siakam, NBA All-Team, All-NBA team, All-Star as well. They got Chris Boucher. They have Gary Trent. They just have a nice young squad as well. But I feel like they're missing another star player that can be like, the main guy over there, because Fred VanVleet and Pascal really aren't made to be main guys over there. And that's really my reason. But besides that, they have a nice defense and everything. But I still see them as a second round exit, because this next tier list are all teams that have proven talent-wise, to be contenders, and just depth-wise as well. My first team of the contenders tier list is the Miami Heat. I've seen this time and time again, bubble, and this year they made the conference finals. This year they made the finals in the NBA bubble. Although they didn't make the finals this year, we know how close they were. Tyler Hero was also injured. Jimmy Butler had to carry so hard, it was crazy. If he would have hit that three-pointer, it would have been there. But the Miami Heat are contender, man. Super deep team. Although they lost PJ Tucker, I think they're going to be perfectly fine. They brought back Victor Oladipo, brought back Caleb Martin. They still have Bam, they still have Jimmy, they still have Tyler Hero, still have Duncan, still have Kyle Lowry. Although I don't think the core is aging a little bit in terms of Kyle Lowry, and if Duncan can be the same player because he's getting overpaid a little bit based on how well he was in the playoffs. But I think this is still a championship contending core that they have around them. And for that reason, I got the Heat here. Heat culture, you know what I mean. Next team is the Nuggets. Assuming that they get Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back this season, they will be a great team. They also have KCP now, a good stretch three-point shooter. But let's not forget how great Jamal Murray was in that series against Utah and just in that playoff series in general. that year. Jamal Murray is amazing. Hopefully he comes back close to that. Michael Porter Jr. was also a great player. Jokic, the two-time MVP, back-to-back MVP. This team, they also have depth. What can I say? Facundo Campazzo, um, Busy Bone. Is it not? I think it's Bones Highland. They have a great team, good depth, and assuming they get Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., this is a dangerous team and a contender. My next team is the 76ers. 76ers are great. Unfortunately, they came up short against the Heat this year, 6 games, with an Embiid that was injured and a Harden that just wasn't the same. So imagine what they could do when Embiid is fully healthy, and if we can get back a close to prime Houston Harden. Tyrese Maxey also completely showed out. They still have Tobias Harris, who's a reliable wing shooter. And yeah, man, they have a good team, deep team. Matisse Thybulle, George Niang, Danny Green. They still have a very deep team. So 76ers are a contender in my book. And assuming that they go out and they also have PJ Tucker. Now I forgot to say, this is a contending team. Nothing has to be said. Embiid, MVP caliber, Harden, former MVP, Tyrese Maxey completely shut out. My next team is the Grizzlies. Man, this young team has just risen up so fast. They have such a nice young core. They're such a deep team as well. They have Tyus Jones, Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, who had a great season, Jaren Jackson, Steve Adams, who can hold the fort down at center. This team has everything. I don't know what else to say about this team. They have everything. Brandon Clark as well. And man, they got Kenny Lofton Jr. It's another good piece of this team. This team already proved it. They gave the Warriors a fight without Ja Morant. Won a game against the Warriors without Ja Morant. This team is so deep, so young, so talented, and athletic. And yeah, they're a contending team. Let's be honest. The Nets are next. Assuming that Kyrie and KD don't end up leaving the Nets, because it looks like things are moving really slow, and the asking price for KD is crazy. This is honestly a contending team still. Let's see their offseason moves. KD, a couple years back, almost beat the Bucks on his own without Kyrie or James Harden. Took them, I believe, to 7 games. Took Giannis and the Bucks to 7 games. And the Bucks would end up winning that year. They have Kyrie, KD. They went out and got TJ Warren, who, when the last time he played, was an absolute beast in the bubble. So TJ Warren would be a great piece. They also got Patty Mills back, got Seth Curry back. This is still a really good team. I don't see why they shouldn't run it back, but I guess KD and Kyrie don't want to stay. But this would still be a contending team, assuming Kyrie and KD do stay. My next team on this tier is the Phoenix Suns. The Suns still have Aiden. They haven't lost him. I believe, honestly, if they even lose Aiden, they're still a contending team. But let's be honest, Aiden hasn't left, so they still have D-Book, they still have Chris Paul, they still have Aiden, they still have that core. I believe they still have Jay Crowder, still have Mikal Bridges, still have Cam Johnson, still have Cam Payne. They still have that really deep team that they made the finals that year against the Bucks. And although they came up short to the Mavericks, let's be honest, it was a little choke. I think it's a one-time thing. I think they'll bounce back this year, assuming that this whole team stays together and Aiden doesn't leave, because God knows what's happening with his contract. My next and last team on this tier is the Lakers. At the end of the day, they still have LeBron. One of the greatest players of all time. Argumented for the GOAT over Jordan, but the Lakers have AD. They still have Westbrook. They have LeBron. They signed Lonnie Walker. They signed other players, but I still think that even without Westbrook playing, the AD and LeBron duo is still lethal, and we really saw that in the bubble. They could be a very good team, and I'm not going to take it for granted how great of a player LeBron is and how great of a player AD is when he's healthy. Question is when he's healthy, obviously. And if Westbrook can have a great season around, I don't see why they can't be contenders. They got the star power for it. They just got to make it work, and they have LeBron. All right, going into the chip-bound tier. My first team on the chip-bound tier, it's got to be the Golden State Warriors. Honestly, the best team of this decade. They have four championships. Curry, arguably he's a top 5 player in the league right now. He had a great finals run, great playoff run in general, finals MVP. They got Draymond still. They have Clay, who was looking pretty well like himself this season, even though he had the most up and down performances in the playoffs. Andrew Wiggins, who stepped up amazingly and made a first-time All-Star. They have Jordan Poole, another future All-Star. Have some amazing young talent. Also, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, James Wiseman. This is a team that has arguably the best mix of young and veteran talent in the NBA right now, and I don't see them going anywhere. The Warriors are insane, man. Amazing team. My next team is the Bucks. Bucks already won a championship. Giannis is the best player in the league. We all know that. That's not even cap. Giannis is amazing. They have Drew Holiday as well, great floor general. They have Chris Middleton. They have Brook Lopez. They have a bunch of other great players. They just have they still have a very deep team, and it's still a very great championship team. And we saw how great they were against the Suns that year. And they got the best player in the NBA, Giannis. So I don't see them going anywhere. The Bucks. My next team is the LA Clippers. I know the Clippers haven't made much noise since they got Kawhi and PG, except for that conference final runs they had. That conference final run they had without Kawhi that PG carried. But man, that showed a lot what the Clippers could be. PG absolutely carried, and Terrence Mann had a very great also playoff game that time against the Jazz. They showed they could be a very dangerous team even without Kawhi, and I believe with Kawhi now with John Wall, and they've also kept pretty much the same team. They still have Luke Kennard. They still have Ivica Zubac, Kawhi, PG, Reggie Jackson. They have John Wall now as well. They have such a deep team. Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, Norman Powell. They have a top 3 deepest teams in the NBA, and I don't see why they can't win a chip now. My last team in this tier, we should know it, the Boston Celtics, man. The Boston Celtics made the finals run this year. They had a great run in the playoffs. Took out the Nets, absolutely sweeping them. Jason Tatum, really proved he was that guy throughout the whole playoffs. The finals, he didn't play so well. Jaylen Brown also played really good throughout the whole playoffs, and he was probably the best player in the finals. Al Horford turned back the clock. Absolutely. Kobe White was great as a 6-man. What else can I say? Robert Williams is great. Marcus Smart, the Defensive Player of the Year, also did his very great defensive things. This is a deep team. They also have Malcolm Brogdon now. Let's not forget that they picked up Malcolm Brogdon, who will be a great either starting point guard or 6-man off the bench, but 20 point per game capable player and also a good playmaker, which is what they needed. This team is dangerous. Super deep team as well. Celtics and Clippers are arguably up there in the top 3 as the deepest teams. And with that, yeah, that concludes my tier list, guys. This is what I really think will be how good these NBA teams will be coming into this next season, assuming that the offseason ends tomorrow, or that all the moves that have happened stay as they are. So, yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. See you guys in the next video. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you. And please make sure to like. See you guys.